Hello and welcome to WFTV Law Talk, your guide to understanding the law and how it impacts our community.
We break down complicated legal topics as part of our mission to ensure legal access for all.
I'm Q McCray alongside Jeff Harvey, who is the CEO of Community Legal Services, and together we'll help amplify the voices of those who are striving to make justice accessible to all. You're watching WFTV's Law Talk.
Turning complex legal jargon into everyday talk. That's WFTV's Law Talk, sponsored by Community Legal Services.
All right, let's get right into it. We have a very special guest with us today, a man who wears many hats. He is a father of three, he is a husband, and he's also the president of the Florida Bar, Mr. Roland Sanchez-Medina. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor and a pleasure.
So tell us about yourself and, and this position you have as the president of the Florida Bar.
Probably the coolest thing that I've ever done. Being the president of the Florida Bar means you're the spokesperson, the face, if you will, of the Florida Bar. And I'm also president of the Board of Governors of the Florida Bar, which is a 52-member board, 50 of which are lawyers, 2 are appointed by the Florida Supreme Court, and they come from the 20 circuits of the Florida Bar. We also have 4 members who are out-of-state members. And of course, as I mentioned, we have 2 members that are from the public that are appointed by the Florida Supreme Court.
So busy man.
Well, man, I got to tell you, it's an incredible amount of work, but it's an honor and a privilege to serve about 113,000 members of the Florida Bar. It's the 3rd largest bar in the country.
There you go.
Wow. So for our viewers, if you're a lawyer, you probably know what the Florida Bar is, right? But what should the community know about the Florida Bar, and why is it relevant to them?
Well, we want to make sure a couple of things. One is that the Florida Bar and its members are, first of all, being good actors, let's say, to members of the society, that we'll make sure that bad actors are getting penalized. It's one of our core missions. We also want to educate lawyers about the different practice area groups. And then, of course, we serve as a rule-making body, subject only to the rules regulating the Florida Bar.
There you go.
And we also helped educate the legislature about the Florida Bar. And we're an arm of the of the Florida Supreme Court. And so they're really our bosses. But we know, like I said, we work with the legislature, and then I'm sort of on a daily basis talking to the executive director of the Florida Bar about day-to-day decisions.
So there's a quasi-governmental role.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you must be a lawyer, Jeffrey. Yeah, no, it's a quasi-governmental role. We're an arm of the Florida Supreme Court, and frankly, they're our bosses. And so at the end of the day, we're sort of beholden to them, but with subject to the missions that I've already mentioned.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is the biggest challenge the bar faces right now?
Wow, that's it's a very good question. We always want to make sure that lawyers are properly, bad actors are probably being addressed through the grievance system. So that frankly is always the case. It's important to me, though, always to be fair to lawyers as well, too, because sometimes, and you may have heard this before, people can weaponize the system. And so in some cases, clients, other bad actors on that side of the field, they will weaponize the judicial system, the grievance system. And so it's important to me to make sure that it's being fair on all sides, fair to lawyers, but fair to complainants as well, too. AI is becoming a big issue in the Florida Bar. We're the first bar to come up with rules, ethical rules of how lawyers can use AI. But we also want to regulate it, but we also want to make sure that lawyers know how to use AI properly. And so it's not a matter of just saying, no, you can't use it, and be careful with ethics, but we want to let them know, hey, you can use it properly in this manner. And we've come up with rules. It's on the website. If you're a lawyer, absolutely look at it, because, like I said, the practice of law can be intense, and really part of the goal here is to make sure that we use a tool like AI and use it effectively and productively for lawyers.
Mm-hmm. And there's always the efforts by the bar to improve access to justice for underserved communities as well.
Last week, the Florida Supreme Court had their pro bono awards, and the Florida Bar participates as well. And I got to tell you, it's hearing some of the stories of some of these attorneys are just fantastic. There's somebody who worked in the publishing industry for about 20 years, retired, and spends about 20 hours a week just giving pro bono services. There's another lawyer who is adjacent to another county that is underserved and doesn't have as many lawyers. He goes to these counties and provides legal services to other people too. And you know, I'm amazed at the number of lawyers that participate in charitable groups in their local communities, on community boards. In my opinion, lawyers for the most part are extremely engaged in their community. Mostly because we're a lot of type A people, but a lot of it is because frankly, we enjoy it. I mean, it's important to become engaged in the community. It's important to help out the organization. It's where we live. It's where our kids grow up. It's where our parents are aging in many respects.
Well, you're specially trained in a system that's quite complicated, right?
Very complicated, but you know, part of what we need to do is steward it and make sure it's run correctly, and in particular to make sure that the rule of law is followed. I mean, this is a country where like no other country in the world, where the rule of law really is option number one, following the rule of law. And part of a lawyer's obligation is to ensure that that in fact happens.
So I know one of the issues that my organization faces is there's a lot of people that don't really know what the law is and don't really know, you know, what to do in those types of situations. What are some of the things the bar's doing to try to address those issues?
Well, I mean, the one major thing that happens is the change in the IOTA trust rules, right? IOTA means interest on trust accounts. So clients who give you their funds on a short-term basis to fund a transaction, monies maybe they won in a case, will sit in a lawyer's trust account. And so Florida's one of the few states, I think there's only 3 states that doesn't have state funding for civil indigent people. And so Florida was the first state, I believe it was in 1981, to come up with a plan which was interest that accrues on a lawyer's trust accounts be given to, back then it was the Florida Bar Foundation, now it's FFLA, and they find organizations such as yours that will then provide legal service to the indigent. And I mean, I was on the Board of Governors that proposed the rule. Ultimately, as I mentioned, our boss is the Florida Supreme Court. The Florida Supreme Court passed the rule, but we proposed it. And when I'm done, you know, next June, clearly one of the most important things that I would have done is be a yay on changing the IOTA rules to make sure that we're getting, and it's not just more money, I think it's fair money. Mm-hmm. I think it's very fair, the rule. It's based on an index, which it wasn't before, to make sure that indigent people get legal services.
Can you give us like an example of how someone would go about using it?
Well, using...
Well, how would someone take advantage of the IOTA?
Well, fair enough. Good question. So, lawyers have to comply with the rules, right? And so, if you have to open up a trust account, and you have to be at a bank that complies with the IOTA rules, okay? And that bank notifies the Florida Bar, and then interest that's accrued in that account will go to FFLA.
Because you can't go to the lawyer.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, man, as you know, there's not enough lawyers that dedicate themselves to the poor and the indigent. I mean, I wish that was the case, but we do, in fact, in my opinion, part of a responsibility as a lawyer and as the Florida Bar is to make sure that there's access to justice. And access to justice are provided by organizations like yours, Jeff, that give indigent people, underserved people, the opportunity to get some credible and some good legal representation, whether it's landlord-tenant, whether it's really anything. And so landlord-tenant is the one thing that I was involved in, but it's really people that need it. And like I said, we all want communities to be fair, right? We all want to live in a place that we feel there's a sense of justice. And without organizations like yours helping the indigent and the poor, then frankly, that won't be the case.
What's the most rewarding case you've ever taken?
So I'm a corporate real estate tax guy, so I'm not really a litigator, so I would love to say that I represented a child in some wonderful case, but a lot of what I do is I do pro bono for small charitable organizations. Charitable organizations that are trying to group and organize and coalesce and provide monies for foster children, for example. I did some work in that area. And so making sure that they have the attorneys that can provide them services that'll help them reach their goals. I have done some landlord-tenant issues, which is also very rewarding But like I said, I wish if I was more in the litigation realm,
Right.
Which I know very little about, I wish I could do more. But the way that I best use my time is by sort of counseling smaller organizations about how to raise funds and help other charitable and community organizations.
Do you have any advice for aspiring lawyers?
Study. The legal profession is, it's not a matter of being elitist, because that's not what it is, but we can be a little bit cutthroat in terms of what they want from their attorneys. They want very smart, diligent, hardworking attorneys. So, and frankly, the better you do in law school, the better you do in undergrad, the more likely that you'll get, let's say, the best jobs at working at the best firms. Not that you necessarily want to end up there. Okay, I mean, everyone obviously decides whether they want to work at a big firm, whether they want to work at a small firm or a medium-sized firm, or as a solo practitioner. But the better you do, the more you study, frankly, the better lawyer you will be.
As the president, you know, with this responsibility of kind of being an arm of the court and making sure you're regulating lawyers, how have you ensured that that body gets to hear from all people in Florida?
Well, that's another excellent question, Jeff. And so, part of the responsibility of the president is to appoint liaisons to the Board of Governors. And let's say it's people that are not necessarily represented in the Board of Governors, the 20 circuits that I mentioned, the out-of-state members. And so, certain areas, smaller firms, maybe legal services organizations that necessarily don't have people that either have the time or are maybe well known in the community, because you know some of the elections can be like any other election, a popularity contest. And so for me, it's important. I appointed a couple of people that come from legal service organizations, so that they have a voice in how the Florida Bar and the Board of Governors works. And I think, frankly, they add such value. You know, because sometimes lawyers can be in their little bubble. You know, big firm, small firm, large firm. But I will tell you that, and this is a lot of people don't know, about 70% of the bar is at law firms 10 lawyers or less. So they're smaller firms. And so it's important to get diversity in terms of the type of firms that we're working at, legal service organizations, governmental lawyers. And so in particular, this is something that I'm passionate about, is to make sure that we have organizations like that have a voice in the say of the Florida Bar. Yeah, man, like I said, we live in a bubble. And so getting thoughts and opinions from non-lawyers makes a lot of sense, because, you know, sometimes we're just in a lawyer mindset. And the Citizen Advisory Group, the 2 public members that are appointed by the Florida Supreme Court, you know, they sort of keep us balanced in terms of, hey, man, this is, you know, you should also be thinking about these things, and you should also be thinking about those things, because, you know, we're 113,000 people, but, you know, we serve every single citizen in the state of Florida, and getting adjustments about how we should communicate with them becomes incredibly important.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to talk about, or anything you just want to
say? One thing.
Yeah.
Listen, I encourage, if there's any attorneys that are listening, I encourage them to run for the Board of Governors. I think it's a wonderful organization. You really get to not only benefit lawyers in the state of Florida, but I think the work we do benefits citizens in the entire state of Florida. And it's important. The access to justice is an incredible important thing. You know, we as lawyers can get caught up in just doing the work, getting it out, the business of law. But, you know, access to justice, ensuring that we're being fair and the legal system is fair, you know, maybe right below our mission is just as important in my eyes.
There you go. Well said, well put. So again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming here, and hopefully we can have you back here in the future.
I look forward to it. You guys are great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Terrific. Roland Sanchez-Medina, the president of the Florida Bar. What a great guest we had today in Roland Sanchez-Medina, president of the Florida Bar. Learned a lot.
Yeah. I really liked how he talked about how the bar's role in kind of connecting the people with the court system.
And the IOTA Trust, I had no idea that was even a thing to help people get the legal services they need.
Yeah.
So great show all around.
Yeah.
And listen, if you or anyone you know at home is in need of legal assistance, you can reach out to Community Legal Services at legalaccessforall.org, or to learn more about today's topic and watch other Law Talk episodes, you can visit WFTV.com/legal or watch every weekend on TV 27.
Till next time, thanks for watching WFTV's Law Talk.
WFTV's Law Talk is sponsored by Community Legal Services.